I don't know. Okay, let's see. I think I'm live now. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Hi, everyone. This is Dali, and um, hi. Okay, so if this is your first time tuning in, I am the Diversity and Anti-Bullying Academy creator and the founder of Dali Talks LLC. And my mission is to educate parents and children on bullying prevention, how to stop bullying, and how to advocate for themselves or for others. So I'm also a blogger, and you can check out my blogs at dalitalks.com, or you can click the link in my bio. You'll see many, many links there of all the blogs that I've written in the past, as well as, sharing other resources there. So I wanted to come on today to talk about my latest blog. I call it Mistakes Do Not Define Who You Are. And I wrote this one because a long time ago, a few years ago, one of my kids had walked up to me and she asked me, "Mommy, was I good today?" And that really broke my heart, and I'll never forget it because that week had been a really rough week where she had been getting in trouble a lot for doing things she wasn't supposed to. And I didn't want her to think that she was a bad kid. So what she was doing was identifying as a bad kid or not a good person because she had gotten in trouble because I had corrected her about her mistakes. And I don't think it was just me correcting her. I think like one day it was my husband, and it took us by surprise because we weren't expecting that, right? So a lot of kids do that, and then it happens a lot in the classrooms where a kid will do something wrong or they'll get into a fight and whatever, and then they're labeled as the bad kid in the classroom, or the bad kid that gets in trouble all the time, or the fighter, or the bully, or whatever. And some kids do bully, and they bully for many reasons. Sometimes they bully because that's all they know at home. They think it's something normal. Sometimes they don't realize that their tone of voice is offensive. They don't realize that doing certain things to others is offensive, or calling them certain names or whatever. So there are many other reasons. I mean, if you've followed my blog, my posts on social media, you might have seen, I think I posted it earlier this morning, different reasons why kids bully. And a lot of times is, they don't know how to handle their emotions. Like I said, the atmosphere that they live in. Sometimes they're just really angry because they got bullied, so then they go ahead and bully others, or they might be hanging around kids who always bully other kids, and they think that that's just what you do, or they might think that bullying is the cool thing to do because you have control and authority, or control over others, or they see that there's some kind of power behind that, But going back to the blog post, it's called Mistakes Do Not Define Who You Are. And I feel like it's really important to talk to your kids that there's a certain way that you should handle your mistakes, which is number one, by not identifying as, like the person that's always creating, doing things wrong. Because we're all human and we make mistakes. So the first thing I recommend that you should do is to teach your kids to apologize with sincerity. I've had situations where my kids argue and one offends the other, and I say, "Now go apologize to your sister." And she'll go over there, she's like, "I apologize." And then, like, no, you're going to have to wait until you actually feel it and then try again. So I have to let her know, like, hey, go cool off, even if it's by tomorrow, but I need you to really honestly apologize and mean it, because it makes such a huge difference to the other person who you have offended when the apology is very sincere. It also conveys that you mean it. And if you mean it, that means that you will most likely not repeat that offense, right? The other thing is you have to make sure that your kids positively identify. So what I mean by that is that they do not describe themselves by their mistakes. So if they bullied somebody once, and that's the first time, and they're not gonna, you should not allow them to call them the bully because somebody else said, "Oh, you were bullying me," even if it was true that they bullied. Once you adopt that name, then you're most likely to act upon the expectations of that name. So if you call yourself the bad kid, then you're probably unconsciously always going to just do things incorrectly or wrong, because that's what you expect of yourself now, because you believe it, right? The mind is a powerful thing, so you have to be careful what you feed it. So the other thing is, you have to move on. You have to move on from that mistake, and you can't be reliving it all the time. You've got to stop bringing up that mistake, because when you do that, you not only reopen that wound to the other person whom you've offended, but you open it up to yourself, and you have to move on in order to heal. You also have to see the silver lining. So what I mean by this is, out of every bad situation, there's something good that comes out of it. So if you hurt somebody, then you might realize that the way that you did it was really terrible, and you should never do it again. And you had the courage to go and apologize with sincerity, and that takes a lot of courage. So then you realize, oh, okay, so I'm strong enough or courageous enough to go ahead and apologize to somebody who I have hurt. Or say if you weren't listening to your parents, and you were told not to go outside and play because there were a lot of nails on the ground, and your bike might get a flat tire, and you might fall and hurt yourself, and so you do, and then you go out there and you get that nail in the tire, and you get a flat, and then you end up falling and you break your leg. You're like, okay, well, now I know that though it sounds absurd for something like that to happen, that it could happen. And because you broke your leg, you ended up having to go to rehab, and you end up making new friends. So, there's something good that came out of it. Let's see what else. The reminder that mistakes are constant. So this is really important because kids especially need to realize that it's not normal for you to repeat the same mistake, but it is normal to constantly make mistakes in life. It's going to happen because we are all learning. In life, you have different scenarios, different situations, and you just have to learn from each and every one of them. And in order to learn, sometimes you have to make mistakes. And it's okay as long as it's something that is not intentional. And you just have to make the best of it, and not repeat. So you can't repeat the same mistake over and over and over. An apology means nothing if you repeat that offense, and lastly, gratitude. You have to be grateful because these mistakes help you grow as a person, as a human being. So show gratitude to the people who have forgiven you. Show gratitude to the people who have supported you through your mistake and stood by you. And there are some people who will opt out of your life when you make a mistake, and it hurts. But the good thing, the silver lining of that, is that you will know who your real friends are, who your real supporters are, because they'll stick around and help you get through it, and also forgive you and see that, you're not a perfect human being just like them. And so those are the 7 takeaways. You can read about them in more detail on my blog at dalitalks.com. And the first one is to apologize. Make sure that you positively identify instead of calling yourself whatever the mistake was. Make sure that you move on. So stop bringing it up again and again. See the silver lining. There's always something good that comes out of mistakes. A reminder that mistakes are constant, and don't repeat the offense. And lastly, be grateful for the good outcomes and what you've learned from that mistake. All right. So, and last thing, I want you to, when you read the blog post at the very bottom, you can sign up to get my free gift, which is these cute little cards that I made. You can print and cut out. And they're called free stinking thinking cards. So these cards, I call them that because Zig Ziglar, he was a very well-known motivational speaker. he used to use this term a lot. One of my favorite books of his is called See You at the Top. And he just had a whole bunch of wonderful perspectives of life. And he was just such a positive person. And I actually still listen to some of his tapes. Well, they're not tapes anymore, they're on podcast. But he was just such a positive person, and he was a forgiving person, and I just admired the strong mindset that he had. And one of my favorite quotes of his was or is you can have anything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And the thing that I want most in life is for as much as equality as possible that we can create. So the reason why I started Daddy Talks is because I want that for kids. I want as much equality as possible, and we cannot have equality with bullying, and we cannot eliminate bullying without eliminating stereotypes, these misconceptions and misunderstandings of others and their differences. So I live by that, and that is what I aim to do with Dali Talks and the Diversity and Anti-Bullying Academy. And I hope that you can help me create that space, even if it's within your immediate little community and among your friends or your family members, just by educating yourselves about differences, and to be mindful of, not following stereotypes and not falling into the trap that, we this idea of us against them, regardless of the differences, and so that we do not use those differences as justifications to treat somebody wrong or less than. So I leave you with these words. I hope that you go to dollytalks.com to the blog and download the stinking thinking cards. That's gonna kill your stinking thinking. Just print these out and check out my blog post called Miss